Hey guys, welcome to the first playthrough Jurassic World, and today I have a couple of my friends in my chat to say hello. Please introduce you guys.
Hey guys, what's up? Phoenix Destiny here.
Hey, Vader Glory here.
So,
But on online, you know me as Music Boy 311.
Mm-hmm.
and today is just basically we're just talking around while I'm sitting here playing Jurassic Park, discussing various animes, basically doing a quick podcast over video games. Um, yesterday I was on Phoenix Destiny's podcast. We're discussing the basics of the new Breaker game that came out, the pros, cons, and what should have been fixed. So,
This is correct.
and also on the light of that, we also have another Gundam game coming in pretty soon.
Hello.
Which last I
Welcome.
checked, it
My name is
was
Dr.
Battle
Ian
Operation
Malcolm.
2 in a few
May have heard
months,
of me.
right?
Well,
Yes,
correction,
and
you
if I
should have heard of me,
recalled,
especially now
since
that you're
it's
here.
me, Music, and Vader
So
checked
before
out our
you are the
Japanese
islands
account,
that you need to
they're going to be
manage,
giving out a
if you can.
free unit, which is the
5
Gundam
deaths.
ground type.
Jeez, if only there had been 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It's a pretty
this is as
standard
good a
unit,
place as
but
any to begin.
it's still a cool one
Isla
all
Matanceros.
nonetheless,
Relatively
that's what I meant to
stable.
say.
Yeah, you can get your feet wet here.
I'll say it like
And
this,
you
for those
should.
of you New Age Gundam
Diving
fans that
into the
don't know
deep
what
end of the
the
pool is
where the
big,
unit's
angry,
from,
hungry
it's from the
things are.
Series 8 MS
And
team,
you want to be
but I'm
ready
not going
before
to
you
get
try
full
that.
into detail about that. Like, if you want to know more about that anime, go watch it. It's good.
If I do recall when I was looking up, by the trailer, um, the only series it's going up
I'm
to
Cabot
is
Finch,
Stardust.
Public Relations and Crisis Management, and I'm here to
Because
help
That's
you.
right.
because in the
You'll
trailer I
start by building
spotted
a
the
Hammond creation
GPO-1.
lab. We've already started on an enclosure for you. You should just attach it to the side. But watch out for dinosaurs. Ah, just kidding.
So, more or less, just we have Gundam games coming to the States, and how long since it's been since the last Gundam game was here in the States besides Breaker and all that?
Wait, say that again?
More or less, the last Gundam games that we ever got in the States was the Dynasty Warriors series of Gundam.
Mm-hmm.
And Gundam Versus, if you want to count that.
But more or less, to my friend Music Boy to my friend Music or Phoenix Destiny. He is a big player of the Versus series, but also he sees the pros and cons of the set series. So, Music, what was your very, very picky parts of the U.S. Versus release?
I'm glad you asked. I'll just give a simple rundown of some of the pros and cons of the game, so here goes. First pro, well, it's the first English versus game we've had on a console. And I can safely say that with
Let's
much
focus on what you're
confidence,
here to do, which is
because if
create
you want to
dinosaur
go
facilities
through a
on the
more,
islands we call
if
the
you want to
Five
take a
Deaths.
take a little more of an
Actually,
objective
a
look,
single
then
more
technically the
case,
first
because
Gundam versus game
Spanish
we
is
ever
the
got on
lingo
a
of choice
console,
around here.
and it goes all the way back to the PS2 era, Federation versus Xeon.
You'll need
Mm-hmm.
to
Because a lot of the
connect to
core mechanics
pre-existing
from,
network of
well,
paths in the
rather what
power
makes a
grid.
Gundam versus game a versus game, pretty much originated from that game, and also Gundam versus Zeta Gundam. Now, that's the first pro. The second is, it has a pretty sizable roster. Like, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of new stuff was added, and, well, It's pretty
Now
interesting
comes the real
considering
test.
a lot of the stuff they
Incubate
managed
a
to come up
dinosaur.
with.
You'll start with a Struthiomimus.
But, of course, that
Select the
also
creation lab
ties
and pick
into
a
a
hatchery
con that I
bank.
have, but I'll get
There's
into
enough
that in a
genome
minute.
data for your first viable dinosaur.
And as far as another pro that I would have about the game, well, I'm gonna put this.
The machinations of the
Well, I mean, as you
ambitious,
guys put it, it's
undoing
pretty much the first
extinction,
Gundam
playing with nature's
game
laws.
we've had in
What can
English
possibly go
for
wrong?
quite a while.
Come on, Doc.
Since
The-
Dynasty Warriors.
You know we've learned
True,
so much.
but
and
to
invested
point out the
even
pros and
more in our
cons,
Jurassic
I'm
operation.
And
gonna
I guess if you want to look at,
Yes,
and I guess if
Mr.
you want
Finch,
to
yes,
bring
the-
it into the
the
mix,
last time was
technically
always the
Super
last
Robot
time,
Wars would also
and the
count.
next.
But that's pretty much pretty much a Play East Asia thing. I mean, a Play Asia thing. So
yes, but
you know.
also the problem is I also have a nitpick with one of the Dynasty Warriors series of Gundam, the Reborns.
Life
They promised us a
begins.
full
The most precious moment. the
a
result of
full Dynasty Wars
incalculable
pack.
actions and
I mean, the full Endless
reactions,
Waltz pack.
trials,
The only
errors,
pack we got
genetic
out of that one
mutations,
was the EW0,
unknowable
which I'm
combinations,
happy,
chaos,
but that was a
all
sad
leading
excuse for
to a
Endless Waltz
living,
pack.
breathing, thinking being, an entity.
yeah, that
Distinct,
is
unique,
true.
And now we,
But another
you,
thing you
just
do have to remember about
manufacture
said nitpick,
so
though,
well done.
it's kind of lost
Yes.
because for the most part, unfortunately, Gundam Wing has slowly been declining in popularity over the years.
True, because we have newcomers as Seed. We have also the Universal
The Hammond
Century.
Foundation has
We
three
also
main
have
areas of
more.
interest.
We
Security,
have more. The recent Iron Blood, the
entertainment,
recent
and science.
Build Fire series
I've
has
already
been
nudged the
started.
heads of each division to reach out to you personally. They'll offer opportunities and incentives for you to be part of their
Let's
team.
see. Anyways,
Choose one of their contracts. It'll help
so
you
anyways,
develop
those
your
are some of the
facility.
pros I found for the game. Now, as far as the cons, okay. Now that first con I was talking about earlier with the
Head of
roster.
security.
Yours, theirs.
Unfortunately, there's no way I can
Welcome
say
to the
this without
islands.
being biased.
So here's
So
our
I'm just going to
basic
say it
conundrum.
straight,
We wanna
and I
keep
don't
our
care what
animals under
anybody
control,
thinks about it.
while
So that being
simultaneously
said,
encouraging instinctive behaviors.
really, Bandai?
Because these
Why no
animals have
After War
potential as
X?
combatants.
Why no Sea
Look,
Destiny?
everyone's
Why no
fair
second
object,
00
myself
second
included,
season
is to
suits?
have these
Why no
animals
War
running
in the
free and loose
Pocket?
in the park.
Why no
But we can't
Igloo?
exploit them globally without taking
Why
some
no
chances.
Blue Destiny? And on top of that, like you were
Contracts can be
saying,
requested
why
from
no
the
endless
division
waltz
heads
suits?
inside the control room. Complete these to increase your
But
reputation
you mean to tell me you
and
will put
gain
pieces
additional
of
revenue
garbage
to
in
keep
like G
expanding your
Reconquista and Age?
Well,
So,
Age may
one
have
more
a bad
thing.
rap,
Your
but
reputation,
the suit
your rep,
designs, I
quote,
think,
unquote,
for some Gundams in that
keep an eye
in
on
the
it,
show,
okay?
was
If you
actually
have a
really
solid
good.
reputation with a division, you're more
Yeah,
likely to benefit
if
from
not
it.
either
Financially,
standard
I
or
mean.
very, very
Like
feminine.
life,
And what I
it's
mean
a
by
balancing
feminine,
act.
I'll say this.
Each division
Anybody
is
that's
vying
played
for
the
your
Breaker
attention,
games
and
that
if they
managed
don't
to get a
it,
pair of the
they
Gaffrin
tend
legs,
to take it personally.
yeah, you take one look at those things and don't tell me that doesn't look like, with the right coloring, those could easily look like female Gundam legs.
Well, if I do recall, female Gundams designs are very rare.
Unless you look at the MS girls artworks.
True, but I'm looking at actual female Gundams that were actually.
Yeah, that's true because
Well
last I
done.
checked,
And you'll
there's
notice
only
absolutely no hints of
2
sarcasm.
that I can count of
Unless you
through the
listen
entire
real closely.
franchise. The
So
Nobel
what I meant to
Gundam, which
say
is
is
pretty
that
much a
completing
lot of
that
people know,
contract has raised your
and the
standing,
other one,
your
which would
reputation, if you
technically
will,
be the
with security
G
division.
Arcane.
This means they'll be willing to give you more difficult missions.
Let's see. But anyways, enough of that. Now the second con I have a problem with in the game, soundtrack selection was a little abysmal. Because, I'll put it to you like this.
Lambert here.
This
I've got a new
con
assignment that
is
I think is
kind of
perfect for your
splitting
skill
off
set.
into a miniature
Put it once
pro,
over,
given some
then
of the music
know
that
if you're
they put in,
interested.
which I liked. but unfortunately, a lot of the better tracks they didn't put in. Like, okay, just to give a small example,
Glad to have you
the
on board.
original 00,
As you can
yeah, I
imagine,
mean, use
the animals in
okay,
the various
UC
facilities are
0079
constantly
Gundam, or
probing
Mobile
weaknesses
Suit
in
Gundam
our
as everybody
security
knows it.
systems.
The
They're
3
smarter and more
tracks they
devious
have
than
in the
people give them
game
credit for.
is
But I
the
refuse
theme
to
song,
underestimate
which
their
is Fly
capabilities.
Gundam. Then
That's
they've
why I'm
got
always
Gallant
testing and
Char, and then
evaluating our
they've
security
got,
protocols and barriers.
let's see, then they've
This is
got the
where you
second
come
part from Long Sleep,
I've
which
gotta give this
technically
guy
everybody
whatever he's
recognizes as
due. He
Amuro's
actually sees these
butt-kicking
animals as
theme.
both opportunity
Now,
and
the
threat.
problem I have with that is the Japanese version of
I'm
Gundam
gonna need you to
Versus
extract enough
got,
DNA from fossils to incubate
well, let's
and
see.
hatch a
They
dinosaur.
got I Know
This is the
Senshi,
first
which
phase of this
plays
mission.
after the invasion
Carry
of
on.
Jaburo, and is a really good song, mind you. Then they
I'm Owen
don't
Gray.
have Here
Owen's
Comes
my friend.
Char.
I've seen things I'd rather not talk about, but it hasn't dampened my commitment to the
And I guess if I had to give one
Raptors more
other
generally,
example,
and me and
they don't
Blue
even have
specifically.
just communication in the
special
game for
relationship,
Gundam Wing.
like what I have with
JP
Claire.
only, but the
Listen,
American
come.
version got Rhythm Emotion,
Anyway, nice to
which
meet
isn't
you.
really a bad theme, but sometimes listening to that theme song for Gundam alone, I mean, Wing alone can kind of get a little repetitive.
Well, but you do admit, but the thing is, they give us a bonus instead of just giving us communication. For the US, they give us the Legend of Zero, which is also known as Apion slash Zero's Berserk theme.
Yeah, that's a very fair point, but unfortunately the music kind of got soured for me because of the survival run. Oh, actually, that reminds me. That brings me to my third and final con of the game. Limited co-op playability. Let me clarify on this. You can only do co-op for survival. Because multiplayer doesn't count, because you're on teams by default. And the reason why I hate that, because last I checked, arcade version of Gundam vs. Gundam Next, and Next Plus if you have the PSP version, you could play through the arcade. Yeah, you could play through the arcade mode with a friend of yours. No such thing in the US version of Gundam Versus for PS4. And I'm willing to bet, even for Gundam Extreme Versus for the PSP, not PSP, PS3, I'm willing to bet you could even go through arcade mode in that game with a friend. Yeah, ultimately, I'd have to say, probably, I did want to keep it to 3, but I guess if I had to say the biggest con of all about the game, it was rushed because essentially it was a test bed for new Gundam Breaker with a game engine.
Well, and also, if I do recall, there's been if I do recall, music, when me and you were playing the game, we had a full party that night, and people were not too happy. You in general.
I'm so wait, not too happy with what again?
You were not. If I recall, there's a few people on the party that was not too happy with New Breaker.
Yeah, this is true. The thing is, and this is something I still don't understand since day one of its release, people have been slamming New Breaker left and right because they're trying to compare it to the older games, which is a mistake because it's called New Breaker for a reason.
True, but you also
And not to mention, on top of that, now I feel like that hate is even more unwarranted considering a lot of people still stating the same cons from the day one release. Considering we got a patch not too long ago that actually fixed quite a few problems within the game. It runs a lot
Good.
smoother
Your
in
first
general,
expedition team
and
is
on top
out.
of that, we're still
They'll
getting new
bring back
suits
what they
added.
find to the fossil center for extraction.
true.
So on top of that, I really got nothing else to say about that subject other than people
Your
jump
job
the
is
gun
simple, really.
way too
Create
quickly.
dinosaurs which attract
Okay,
visitors to your
Invader,
facilities,
we recently
bring
got
some
news
capital,
about a new Digimon
money,
game, so how
which
do you
means
feel
you can
about
do
that?
more research to build better
Hmm.
facilities and
The only
create
thing
more
I'm concerned
dinosaurs.
is
There you
that
go.
if they
The circle of life.
if they're actually going
Development
to
and
put it like
resources.
how like if it
Nature
plays
and
like Digimon
commerce.
World,
See?
that's the thing.
Simple.
Like if it's gonna be if it's like that, then cool. But if not, oh well, I don't mind. I mean, you know, as long as it plays well and all. Nothing else I can else have to have else say about it really,
Yeah,
since they just announced it.
and another thing as well, we do have a... So, put a nerve wrench as well, the new Build Fighter series. Or Build Divers as it's called right now.
Mhm.
And pretty much it's the standard, it's, to me, it feels like a standard shonen. Uh, Pretty much a standard shonen type deal.
Yeah.
Because you have... Because you may... Yes, we do have the... Yes, it may be the stereotypic shonen, but you do have to, it does have its pros and cons. It's just a commercial just to get people to
You
buy,
should extract genomes from fossils that have been collected inside your fossil
to
center.
pretty much get people to
That
buy
will
kits
increase the
and
amount of
people to
viable
get into
data
the
you have
anime.
to create dinosaurs.
Mhm.
Which I do understand that, hey, which if I do recall, back when Gundam was being almost being was pretty much was almost in a hole,
Yeah.
because if people don't realize this, back then when Gundam was barely just a typical, oh, it's this typical robot genre back then. Basically back then the Gundam's competitors were known as the super robots. Um, but the creator of Gundam wanted to basically just say, hey, I may be I want to stay away from the typical super robot genre.
Yeah.
So the reason was he said, hey, I can build the super robots, but then you have to realize that Gundam back then was small, but now it's a recognizable genre.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Do you have anything you want to put on their music?
Well, when it comes to Gundam animes, I'll say this. Honestly, I kind of wish that there was some certain Gundam animes that was actually English dubbed. Especially given how long that they've been out, I feel like people would definitely... I feel like they like the series. I mean, I understand that there is that age-old thing where not everybody likes the dubs, but I still feel like it would still have fans nonetheless.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, a perfect example, I have seen a lot of people actually clamoring for an After-War X dub and a Turn A dub.
No one sees it. Don't answer. That's rhetorical and painfully obvious. What I'm saying is that we need people in our parks. Fill up our facilities with warm bodies. Numbers bring revenue, excitement, and opportunities.
Let's see. And I would say Double Zeta, but Double Zeta does have a dub, but for some reason you can never find it on any streaming site.
Yeah.
This job ain't
So,
easy, but
that being said,
it's
no,
not
I'd like to
supposed
ask you the same
We are
question.
reshaping the world,
What's your
one
take on a
exhibit
lot of the
at a
Gundam
time
series
show at a
these
time.
days?
This
Well,
genome thing was solid work.
my honest
The way to
opinion
bring
is
it home.
nowadays, I think the Gundam is getting there close to being the typical of, hey, it's stereotypical to a point, but it's to be expected of a Gundam. The only, but I hate to be the point this as well. Um, we're just pretty much getting to the point where, yeah, more or less nowadays it's people wait. I hate to point this their music. More or less people are getting to point to into the fan service type animes instead of just basically like, hey, I want a anime that's pretty much just, oh, um, let's see. To point out this, people are gonna be like, oh, High School DxD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think Gundam has reached quite that far yet. I mean, even with a certain character from the Build Fighter Strike series, it hasn't gotten to that level yet.
Well, if you look at the demographic that anime is pointing at, the Build Fire series are more or less pointing at the early the early teens to that's
I
just
mean,
my
early
opinion.
teens to kids, because essentially, I mean, those anime series is about gunpla fights.
Gunpla fights, but also you have to remember you have people, because if you do recall, they started flirting with, if I do recall, one of the characters that you were excited for in New Breaker was taken out because she's a 17-year-old minor.
Which again, I'm just gonna say at that fault. I'm just gonna say at that point, yeah, that's the fault on both sides at this time.
Well, and also you have to.
And what I mean specifically by the fault of both sides, well, I'll put it like this: there's something I like to call the cultural divide between U.S. and Japan, and the thing is, the best way I can word it. So let me get this straight, guys. So you mean to tell me it's okay to have a certain Umbra Witch in Smash, but a cute girl in a Gundam game is wrong? Like, did I miss something here? Especially considering since said Umbra Witch comes from a series of rated M games.
Rated M, yes.
And granted, I know Nintendo has definitely upped their game in terms of a lot of the games that's been coming out on the systems lately. Like, they've literally stepped outside their comfort zone, and they're not exactly family friendly anymore. But still, I mean, a lot of their games to this very day at least still have that some modicum of family friendliness. But the point is, I'm trying to make, yeah, I feel like at that point that's just the fault of the U.S. because I mean, we are hypocritical about a lot of things.
Yes, because if you do
And the
remember,
reason why I said both sides because I feel like we're at fault for that, and I feel like Japan's at fault for actually listening to us.
Yes, we may
'Cause
be
I'll put-
on our fault,
Yeah.
but if you do recall, music is just basically how our culture divides.
Which again, I mean, I know I keep lording the point, but I feel like it's still hypocritical because I feel like we're into a lot more. I mean, we're in a lot more interesting stuff than we let on. Because the only thing I'll say is, it's called Pornhub for a reason.
Well, to point out their music, we kind of, in the U.S., we kind of live in a Judeo-Christianic where pretty much where anyone that has to deal with revealing anyone's sexuality is labeled bad.
Which again, hypocrisy of the highest caliber, I tells ya. But again, I mean, it's just pretty much futile trying to say that to anybody at this point. Because it's pretty much an age-old situation where it's the whole supposedly might makes right thing. Like, whoever's point is stronger, pretty much, that point will win, no matter what. Then again, I guess, I mean, the stuff that we're into, yeah, technically it does have older people, but all I'll say is, I'm pretty sure that there is some people in the U.S. that have that hidden side of them that nobody wants to admit.
And you know what that is?
What's that?
They usually call them child molesters.
Yeah. Because again, that's just pretty much how things work these days, I guess. Because I'll say this, it's not something I tolerate, and I never will. But at the end of the day, everybody's got a seriously guilty pleasure. They just don't want to admit it. Huh. I guess in fact, if you really wanted to think about it, one might call it a persona of sorts.
If I do recall music, you said you just got done playing. If I recall music, you just got done playing that game.
Playing the namesake game.
Yes.
Yep. And I don't regret playing it, honestly. Like, at one time, I actually thought Persona 5 was just another one of those high-demand games that just cater to a lot of people's fanboyism. But no, it is a genuinely deep game that, honestly, it makes you think about a lot of things. And, on a secondary note, I will say this, for any fans out there of the Death Note series, let's just say that that game is going to seem familiar to you in more ways than one. And that's pretty much without giving up spoilers.
So, Invader, do you have any ideas if they were to bring a Gundam game that you would like? What would they? Any ideas what you would design into the game? This goes for both you guys.
For that, I really can't say much for really. Like I said, I'm not really sure, really. In my opinion, it's like.
Come on, you haven't given it some thought at some point?
Well, oh man, it's like there's so many ideas I could want to say, but I don't know. It's just not sure it would be a good idea, but then again.
Well, just go ahead and lay it out. I mean,
Dr. Dua.
Nothing beats
This
a
is our new director of
try better.
operations.
Nothing beats a
I'm aware,
failure better
Captain.
than a try.
I'm Dr. Dua. I run
Yeah.
the science division of our
So
operation.
yeah, go ahead. I mean, go ahead, lay it out.
You're
Like,
going to need to
who
build
knows?
more
There might be
reputation
some people
in the
who's
science
watching this
division.
video
Not
that
easy
might
with me
actually
around,
agree
but
with
you'll
you.
manage. That means managing our dinosaur
Yeah.
population and seeing that they
Like,
are
I'll put it to you
flourishing.
like this. Now, something that I've thought of that would be a very good idea for a Gundam game, and I'm not saying they have to do this for every series, even though it would be nice, but I know that's not going to happen. The thing is, I like the game Federation versus Xeon, because aside from being the first Gundam versus game, it's one of very few Gundam games that actually follows the plot of the anime to a T, pretty much. The others being Gundam versus Zeta Gundam. Let's see. I believe there was a Seed game also for that. And also, I believe the 00 game for DS also did the same thing.
Yeah. Pretty
But
much.
this is but on that one, that's a speculation because I never got the game because I wasn't even aware it existed. Yeah, it took a YouTube video that has every Gundam game ever to actually make me realize, wait a minute, so this game existed? And I will say on a bit of a footnote with that, yeah, I did grow up watching Gundam Wing on Toonami, but I think at the time I was probably young enough not really to fully comprehend what I was watching.
Yeah.
Especially because at the time I was more of a action anime junkie, which Dragon Ball Z obviously fits the mold perfectly. Because
Yeah.
it was essentially watching super powerful characters duke it out with beams and fists.
Yep.
Sorry about that, I had to fix my mic. But
Yeah, you're
anyways.
fine.
Now, as I was saying though, that being said, going off to what my idea for a game would be, and even though I know it's not anything in popularity, but I still feel like it'd be something. I feel like it's an idea out there, and at least it's nothing that Bandai has thought of yet, or if they have, I don't know why they haven't acted on it. Specifically, a Gundam Wing or Build Fighters game in the vein of Federation vs. Xeon. Specifically, you have a campaign, a story-driven game with a campaign that, I will admit, it could probably even do with an acceptable versus mode or something, if they really wanted. But all in all, I would just want to see a game like that exist. Because I'm like, you mean to tell me we have story-driven campaign games for pretty much a lot of different parts of the UC timeline and even a few of the alternate universe timeline, but for some reason we never had one of Wing? Seriously, the only Wing game we've ever had, and I don't mean, and by we I don't mean the States, I mean Japan, is Endless Duel for the Super NES.
Yeah.
To point you there, music, there have been a lot of games from that genre.
A lot of games from, genre, do you mean like fighting or?
Yes, because the second biggest games that Gundam has ever had is usually just as you said, fighting or suit. Because remember, the series that was popular back then was known as how should I put it? The battle assault games.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, I said Endless Duel, but yeah, the Battle Assault games pretty much came from Endless Duel, actually.
No, they
pretty much
were the predecessors.
Battle Assault was no, that can't be right. It was on PlayStation.
Yes, but Endless Duel was before it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Oh wait, wait,
I'm Claire Deering,
but
and I've been on these
wait. You
islands
said there was a
before.
predecessor,
On
so like,
Isla
doesn't that mean
Nublar,
they
I
came
made some
before?
mistakes, and I've tried to
Yes.
set them right. I believe in what we're
No,
doing,
that
and I
still can't be right.
believe in these
I mean, not
dinosaurs.
Operation, but Battle Assaults was for the PlayStation, which didn't come out until after the Super
You must
NES.
take care of your
Yes,
dinosaurs.
because if
Their
you do
health is of
recall,
vital importance.
they had to make a modification.
Modification? What do you mean?
Well, basically, the first Battle Assault was supposed to be for Zeta.
Right.
So all in all, we have, because what was popular in the States when Battle Operation 1 came out?
Go ahead. I mean, I wouldn't know this, so I'm just.
It was Gundam Wing. All they did was swap out Zeta. All they did was swap out the sprite for Zeta for Wing. And this is TV Wing we're talking about. Because what is Zeta known for? Besides the buyout before being going to see like a Super Saiyan.
Zeta's
What?
known for having a flight mode, I guess.
Yes, but also what it in the last episode, because this should be fresh in your mind. What did Zeta do in that flight mode when it was facing his rival, his final opponent?
Oh, he pretty much rammed it straight through the cockpit of the O.
Yes, but what is Wing known for?
It's burn mode.
So what they did, this instead of making it a high output buster shot, they gave it Zeta's RAM, which I
Okay,
do.
hold on. I need to look something up right quick. Just continue,
Alright.
but I need to look something up right quick.
Alright, viewers, we're gonna probably call it a time for now. But thanks for showing up for my Welcome to Jurassic Park podcast. This might not have to do with anything with Jurassic Park related, but more or less, this is just basically just for anime stuff during a playthrough. And I'll catch you on the flick side, asshole. Bye.